It's the middle of bowl season, and we've got more picks for you.
College football bowl season is back, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a detailed focus on the Big Ten, the Mountain West, and all the bowls.
Hey, it's great to have you back here on the mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve. Steve, it's time to do another pick episode here for bowls. We're going to do the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th. So all the bowls on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we're going to do a live episode this Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to pick all the New Year's Six bowls and all the rest of the bowls at that point. So, hey, we'd love to have you on there for that live episode. We do the picks. We do some Q&A with anybody that's on. Had a great first one. Looking forward to the second one. But let's get right to it. We're going to start on the Tuesday bowls. The first one is the Quick Lane Bowl. Bowling Green Falcons versus the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And Steve, I'm going to let you have this one. You are the Big Ten guy, so what are we doing here?
Oh, man, this game, I can't wait. I can't tell you how excited I am to see Minnesota and Bowling Green. So, you know, Minnesota had a lot of transfers. Their quarterback, and I think his younger brother, who's a wide receiver, transferring out. They had a lot of transfers. A lot of the guys are just guys that didn't really work out great for them. You know, I look at this. I looked at both rosters. Bowling Green lost some people as well. They have some opt-outs, a good amount. You know, I look at the line, Minnesota -4.5. You know, coming down the stretch, just Minnesota, they just petered out in the Big Ten schedule. Yes. Like, you know, a couple times I went to them and they just kept disappointing me. I look at this, Minnesota is just the better team. Yeah. Even without their quarterback, maybe it was addition by subtraction, I don't know.
Right.
But, you know, they're just a better team. Their secondary is not great. That's probably their biggest weakness, but Bowling Green's probably just not going to challenge them that much in that aspect. So the line is Minnesota -4.5. I see Minnesota as probably a good solid touchdown better. So I'm going to go ahead and take Minnie to cover 4.5.
Yeah, I would agree with most everything you say. You know, Minnie's going to be on their third string quarterback, but the Falcons are also losing several players in their secondary. You know, Minnie knows how to control the clock.
Yes.
So, you know, if they can keep the ball in their offensive hands and limit the amount of touches Bowling Green gets on offense, I think Minnie has the better special teams game here. So if this is going to be a low-scoring affair, and you said you like Minnie by 7, I'm going to take Minnie by 2 field goals. I'm going to say we're talking field goals here. And quite frankly, it's a MAC team versus a Big Ten team. You know, the MAC team comes in at 7-5. The Big Ten team comes in at 5-7. So not too much difference in terms of their standings, wins and losses. So I'm with you. I'm taking the Gophers here at -4.5. I just think there's too much value there for a Big Ten team playing a MAC team. So we agree on our first one. And I do want to mention, as of right now, we're recording this on Saturday, so we don't know how the Saturday bowl games are going. But Steve and I both are sitting at 5-4-1 right now. Yeah. We haven't hit every game the same, but we're even at 5. Well, not even. We're one above 500 at 5-4-1. Let's get to our next one here, Steve. The Serve Pro First Responder Bowl. We got the Texas State Bobcats coming from the Sun Belt at 7-5 versus the Rice Owls sitting at 6-6 from the American. Two teams that I bet on and picked earlier this season. I'm actually excited for this game. I like both offenses here. I like both teams. I kind of got on the Owls mid-season, and you know, we hit some wins there with them. I think this could be a pretty high-scoring affair. As I said, they both have very good offenses. Padgett is serviceable here. Obviously, JT Daniels is now done. He's retired, medically retired for the Owls. But Padgett's done fine coming in the last few games. He's no JT Daniels, but he's done fine. The Bobcats can score points with Finley just chucking the ball down the field. Yeah. I mean, and really the Bobcats are a bit of a sink or swim. They're either gonna blow you out of the water with their offense, or you go, what offense is this? You know, last week they were scoring 50 points, and this week it looked like they can't even complete a pass. So they're definitely a little bit up and down. But I'm going to say here that the Bobcats just have too much offense for the Owls, especially without Daniels. Again, Padgett's serviceable, but he's not. Daniels was the he was the tail of the tide there for them when he's chucking the ball. That offense was fantastic. So I'm going to go Bobcats here. Texas State Bobcats -5.5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The way Texas the way they played all season and then just kind of finished out the season, their offense, I think pretty much stayed strong all throughout the season. Yes, there were some games maybe they played some better defenses. For me, Rice, their offense with JT Daniels, it was just different. Okay, like you said, their backup, he was serviceable, he was fine.
Yeah,
not going to point any fingers at him, but they were different with JT Daniels. I just both of these teams, good offenses. Rice really does not play any defense whatsoever. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I could see this as like a 49-31 type game. And I'm going with Texas State. I would pick them by a touchdown or more.
Yeah.
So I'm going with them to cover that 5.5.
Yep. All right, let's get to the next one. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl. We got the Kansas Jayhawks versus the UNLV Rebels, the only Mountain West team that we're picking on this episode. I'm going to start with you and let you give your thoughts, and then I'll give my pick.
So, you and I have been going back and forth on Maeva. We had seen some reports that he was in the transfer portal, but then we couldn't really find any evidence of it.
Right.
I kept looking. Finding information on UNLV is not the easiest.
No.
I'm used to following teams like Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, where there's 5 billion people that write about them and provide information.
Yeah.
UNLV is a little more difficult. I found 2 or 3 lists of UNLV's opt-outs, and Maeva was not listed on any of them.
That's the same that I've been seeing. So
I was not really able to find practice reports to say whether he was practicing, but I'm going to go under the assumption that Maeva is playing in this game. Mm-hmm. To me, that just gives them a completely different offense when he's there. Mm-hmm. The line is 12.5. I was a little surprised about this. Kansas is not a bad team. They did lose quite a few players, some really good players.
Yep.
Some coaches. I was just surprised at the line. I was ready to go and pick I thought maybe UNLV be 2 to 3 point favorites, something like that. I was surprised, maybe 5 under touchdown. I was surprised at the line, so that gave me a little pause. Then I just thought about it. Assuming Maeva is there, I think that they can cover these points, so I'm going to go ahead and take UNLV with Maeva plus 12.5.
Okay, yeah, and I would concur. I have seen nothing ever since we brought that up with our first transfer portal episode. There was early reports that Maeva was in the portal. I have seen, again, still nothing to corroborate that, which to me is fantastic. I want him to stay at UNLV. So I would concur with you that he's likely playing in this game. I see nothing to say otherwise. But I'm going to disagree with you. Kansas's offense is really good. And yes, they're missing some players, as all. I mean, I could say that about every freaking game that we're picking. Some teams it's going to affect more than others. And honestly, in these early bowls, the teams that I thought were going to struggle more because of it, it really hasn't affected them as much. So, maybe I'm putting too much weight on that. Now, a guy like, we talked about JT Daniels, he's a difference maker for the Owls. That is a huge loss for them. And that's not a transfer issue. It's just he retired there at the end of the season. But I do think the Jayhawks offense here in the Big 12 going 8-4. Yes, the Rebels were 9-4 in the Mountain West. But you look at their last 2 games and what the Boise State offense did and the San Jose State offense did. I say the Jayhawks offense is as good, if not better, than those 2 offenses. And the Rebels D just could not stop those 2 offenses. There's nothing here that makes me think they're going to stop the Jayhawks offense. And yes, the line's maybe a little big, but I think it's 2 touchdowns plus here. I think the Jayhawks roll, from the Mountain West, being the Mountain West guy, I would love the Rebels to put up a great showing here. I just think the Jayhawks are just too much for them. And again, I go back to those last 2 games versus San Jose State and Boise State and say, I just don't think the defense can hold up. So I'm taking the Jayhawks minus 12.5.
Yeah. And just to clarify what I said earlier, I meant I was surprised that UNLV was getting 12.5. I think I said that they were 12.5 point favorites. I was surprised to see how many points.
Right. No. Yeah. Right. That's how I took it.
Yes. I agree with everything you were saying. I just I think with that 12.5, I feel good about them covering.
It is a decent amount of points, but again, I look at those last 2 games and I think they're in trouble here. So let's get to Wednesday. So Wednesday, December 27th, we got the Military Bowl. Virginia Tech Hokies versus the Tulane Green Wave. Tulane, a team I have been against for a while. I was glad to see them finally lose because I thought they were due for a loss. So the Hokies coming in 6-6, a 500 team in the ACC. The Green Wave 11-2 from the American. So for Tulane, Pratt, the quarterback, and several receivers, and some big defenders are out. I said I feel they've been overrated for a while towards the end of the season. They kept winning, but they weren't winning big, and I could just see it was headed towards a loss, and then it happened. Virginia Tech losing some players as well, but nothing major, not to the extent of what the Green Wave are. And their offense can score points. I mean, this Hokie offense is good. So, my only concern here would be, is this a game kind of like that Ohio game when I'm like, wow, how's Ohio going to score points? They're losing their quarterback and their receiver and their running back, and they go and just demolish. Who did they end up playing? I don't remember. But anyway, their offense scored 40-some points in that game. And I would say, look at the Old Dominion game, who was well in control, and then they lose it in overtime. Yeah. My concern is this another one of those games that kind of looks like one of these teams is losing their players, and they don't have a lot of depth. But I'm going to say no. It is not one of those games. Okay. I'm taking the Hokies -9.5.
Yeah, we got to the same point, same place. Maybe by a different path.
Okay,
a little bit, but
okay.
No, I agree with you. I think Tulane. I think they're missing their quarterback. I really think it's Pratt, right?
Yes, Pratt.
He was the driver of that offense. I mean, there are some teams where the quarterback doesn't matter, or whatever, but I really think he was a big driver of that offense. And I just. Virginia Tech is a better roster, top to bottom.
Yeah,
they really haven't shown yet in the ACC so far that they can really contend for a championship. But they're a good roster. They're a better roster, top to bottom.
Yeah,
they're not losing as many people, and the people that they're keeping, I think, are the ones who are really going to play a part next year.
Yeah,
and I see this team as a team on the rise. Where Tulane, they got kind of picked apart like a carcass.
Yeah.
After the season, so I'm also getting there. Virginia Tech covering 9.5.
All right, let's go to the the Duke's Mayo Bowl. We got the UNC Tar Heels coming from the ACC versus the West Virginia Mountaineers coming from the Big 12, and this is yours, Steve, to take. I'm anxious to hear what you're going to do here because I struggled a little bit to get to my pick.
So I'll tell you, I was surprised when I first looked at the line that West Virginia was 6.5 point favorites. Okay,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Again, I thought this would be like a 2.5, 3 point game.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: North Carolina, again, for the second year in a row, they kind of struggled down the stretch. They just. I don't know. It's hard to understand them as a team, and their best asset, Drake May, the quarterback, he is going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks. One of the top probably 2 or 3 quarterbacks taken next year. Maybe could be a top 5 pick. Yeah. He was basically their entire offense. They're also losing a bunch of other players, skill position players, wide receivers, running backs. And honestly, their heart and soul, like 80% of their offense went through Drake May. West Virginia, they're losing some people, but I really think they've kept that core together. That core, they really fought for Dan Brown to keep his job. Dan Brown or Don Brown? Maybe Don Brown. To keep his job. They really stayed together. They're not a great team, but I feel like they kept a lot of their core together. I like the way they were playing throughout the season, finished strong. I like their trajectory headed towards next year. So the more I thought about it, the more it actually made sense, the point spread. I like West Virginia to be about a touchdown better. So I'm going to go ahead and take them to cover 6.5.
Yeah, and my thought process was the same as yours until the very end. Yeah. And I went, nope, I don't think they're going to cover. I've gone, my first 4 picks here have all been favorites. I'm going to take my first underdog here. I like getting 6.5 with the Tar Heels. And yes, everything you said I think is accurate. Both teams are missing some key players. UNC obviously is missing more key players. And WVU is a great ball possession team. So UNC is going to maybe have to be a little bit of a quick striker here and get their points when they can. But I'm going to take the 6.5 here. Maybe I'm a fool, but I'm going to take the Tar Heels plus 6.5 points.
All right.
Next one, DirecTV Holiday Bowl. We've got the Louisville Cardinals versus the USC Trojans. So Louisville coming in at 10-3 from the ACC. USC just limping along here, 7-5 in the Pac-12. Just a disastrous end of their season. Just massive clunker. USC is just losing a ton of offense. Williams, Lloyd, Rice, but it's USC. Yeah. They still have a ton of talent. So. For me, I just can't go against the grain here. I wish it was a 6.5 line. It's not. But I'm still going to go with Louisville. I like the way they played this year. I think, you've talked a lot, pick episodes about building into next season. I think USC is just kind of done. I mean, even with the backups in at play, I think they're like, let's just get the heck out of this season. Let's worry about next year come spring or whatever. Next year, yeah. And so I'm going to go Louisville here at minus 7.5.
Yeah. I'm with you. Louisville under Jeff Brom, they had a great season this year for where they were before.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm sure their fans are disappointed. I think they lost to Kentucky in one of the last games of the season. And then, they lose that game to Florida State.
Right.
Where, if Florida State is just a darn good team.
Yes.
If Florida State had their starting quarterback, they'd be one of the favorites to win the college football playoff.
Right.
So they had kind of two disappointing losses towards the end. But overall, man, just a great season. I love Jeff Brom, what he does with offenses now. I think they're going to be without their quarterback.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Both teams are going to be out their quarterback.
Right.
They're out their quarterback.
Right.
Caleb Williams is gone off to NFL pastures.
Yep.
And USC they do have a lot of talent.
Yep.
Their defense was horrible all year.
Yes.
Even with the talented players they had brought in, and now some of those are leaving.
Right.
Their offense was just hit or miss. It really depended. Caleb Williams really had to carry them along.
Yep.
And it just depended. He didn't seem to have anybody reliable. Like, there's a lot of talented guys on that roster, but nobody that he could count on to get first downs, get a touchdown when they needed it. A lot of times he had to play hero ball.
Absolutely.
Sometimes hero ball worked and sometimes it didn't. So I'm gonna continue, or I think USC is just gonna continue to slide. And I don't think with this team, I think they're gonna bring in a whole bunch of new players next year with the portal and everything. So I really don't think that for them this game has anything to do with next year. I think, like you said, they're gonna figure out next year.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that are going to be playing for them next year are not going to be in this bowl. Whereas Louisville, exact opposite. Jeff Brom's team, he's building it from the ground up. These are the guys he's going to run with next year. I like that to continue on. And yes, the 7.5 line kind of sucks. You always love to see the 6.5. But I feel confident in Jeff Brom and Louisville, so I'm taking them to cover that 7.5.
Okay. Well, we're agreeing quite a bit here.
Yeah, well, I think we're maybe
just one right now. Yeah, but that's okay. Let's get to the last one here for this week or this day. What are we on? We're on Tuesdays, right?
Yeah.
Tuesdays picks?
This is Wednesdays.
Or Wednesdays, I'm sorry.
Wednesdays picks.
Which one are we on? What did I do here?
We just did Louisville in the DirecTV Holiday Bowl. Now we're in the Tax Act.
That's what I said. Okay, I got it here. Tax Act. Yes. Texas A&M Aggies versus the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So the Aggies coming from the SEC at 7-5. Oklahoma State with a really nice season, 9-4 in the Big 12. They had that big upset earlier in the season. I'm a Gundy fan. I just am. And A&M is missing a lot of talent here. It'll probably likely be a close game. The Cowboys here are getting 1.5. So I'm just going to take that 1.5, and if they win it straight up, great, and I don't need it. But if it's a 1-point game, I'm good to go. So I'm taking the Cowboys here. I don't have a lot to talk about in this game. Like I said, I think Gundy gets his teams ready to play no matter what. So I'll take the Cowboys plus 1.5.
I'm with you. We're going to agree again. Texas A&M just completely decimated. I mean, they had a great roster, had some big wins towards the end of the year. Tons of talent on that roster. Well, that roster is just being decimated, picked apart.
Yep.
They fired their coach. They got a new coaching staff coming in.
Yep.
I just don't have a lot of faith that they're going to really be motivated to do much in this game.
Yeah.
I'm taking Oklahoma, or are we doing
Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma State, yeah.
Oklahoma State.
I'm taking Oklahoma State as well. I like Oklahoma State just to win straight up.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm taking them plus I got it as plus 1.5.
Yes. Yep.
I like the money line, and again, I'm not a huge money line guy, but every now and then I like to tell our viewers if there's. So I saw the money line earlier for plus 105.
Okay.
Whereas I think the if you played the spread, it was like minus 114 or something.
Okay.
But if you played the money line, which is only 1.5 point difference, you got plus 105. I like those odds. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm picking them. My official pick is Oklahoma State plus 1.5, but I might lay some of my money on the Oklahoma State money line at plus 105.
Okay, sounds good. So, did I mess up, Steve? I had you listed as you going first.
That's
on
all
that.
right.
So we'll switch you up. We'll let you do the first one on Thursday,
Okay.
the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. The SMU Mustangs coming from the American, and the Boston College Eagles, a 500 team with the ACC. What do you think?
Boston College is just no good. They just stink. Their offense is bad. Their defense is whatever. They're just no good. I love SMU. You know, and maybe it's just like my bias towards offense. But SMU, just an awesome offense to watch. I love them. I think they're going to have no problem scoring against Boston College. And I think Boston College is going to have tons of problems scoring. The line is huge. SMU, I have them as a 10.5-point favorite.
Yep.
But I think they're going to win by 2 touchdowns at least. So I'm going SMU to cover that 10.5.
I agree, and these are two teams that will be in the same conference next year.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think the SMU offense is fantastic, but I think they're honestly fantastic on both sides of the ball. BCU has to be able to run the ball in this game, and their O-line has to be excellent. I mean, they need a stellar performance from their offensive line and their running game to keep this game close. I totally agree with you. I don't see it happening. I think the Mustangs run away with this. I'm also taking the Mustangs minus 10.5. Bad Boy Powers Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah.
Bad Boy Mowers. What did I say? Powers. Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl.
This is the Pinstripe Bowl. It's in Yankee Stadium.
Yes.
Penn State was in this a couple years ago. It's kind of a strange bowl, but you get some pretty cool matchups of like solid middle of the road Big Ten teams.
Yep.
So it's a cool bowl.
And that's what we have here. We have a middle of the road Big Ten team in the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, 6-6, versus the Miami Hurricanes, 7-5 in the ACC. You go, what's the weather going to be like for the Miami coming up into Yankee territory? The weather's actually not supposed to be too bad in terms of temperature. It's not supposed to be too bad for this game. Maybe some rain, but they're not going to get frozen up here in the tundra of Yankee Stadium. Both Miami's top 2 quarterbacks are out. Their third string is in. Still has some talent for sure. The lines are going to be huge in this game. I think both offensive, defensive from both teams gonna be huge. And when it comes to lines, I say get me a Big Ten line. I am taking the Scarlet Knights plus 1.5.
Yeah, I agree with you. Rutgers, I was really hard on Rutgers, especially at the beginning of the season. I said Rutgers is going to stink. And in some ways, they did stink out loud in some ways. But in some ways, they were actually better than I thought they'd be. I think Shiano has them going in the right direction. They had the Big Ten's leading rusher this year. And a lot of that was because of their offensive line. Just his style he coaches and the line that they have and the running back they had just kind of just makes for a good combination. If you're going to be good at something in college football, that's one of the things you want to be good at.
Sure.
They play okay defense. So I like Rutgers. They're getting 1.5. Is that you
That's what I have. Yep.
I like Rutgers definitely to win this straight up. I could see it being a low scoring game, so I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm not going to do a money line pick, but I am going to take them Rutgers plus 1.5 points.
Man, we agree again.
Yes.
And if you're new to this, we do not compare these at all. We come do our own little researching, figure out what we're going to do. But wow, we are liking each other's picks today, Steve. So we got 2 left. The Pop-Tarts Bowl. We've got the you have something else?
Pop-Tarts Bowl, the only bowl this year where the mascot is actually edible. So the winning team is going to be able to eat the mascot. So I'm excited.
I may watch it just for that.
Yeah, I mean, you had the LA Bowl. Their mascot was Gronk with a WWE belt. That was a lot of fun. But this one, their mascot's edible. I mean,
yikes. That's interesting, Steve. Hey, NC State Wolfpack, 9-3 from the ACC, had a really good year. Very strong team. Frankly, in my opinion, a bit of an underrated team. And the Kansas State Wildcats, 8-4 coming out of the Big 12. To me, there's just too many starters out here for Kansas State, losing a ton of guys. As I said, NC State, to me, is an underrated team. They have a pretty even attack, both in terms of ground and air game. They're not reliant on necessarily one or the other. So I'm going to take the points here. I started off with a lot of favorites early on in our pick show. Now I'm ending with a lot of underdogs, but I'm going to take the Wolfpack getting 2.5 points. At least last I looked, they were getting 2.5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Same thing. I think NC State's a better team.
I agree.
I mean,
yes.
If Kansas State had if both teams had all their players they're playing at even strength, I think it would be pretty even match. But I think I would still have given NC State a slight edge.
Yes.
And Kansas State, they're missing just so many important players that were huge producers. I'm going to go with NC State. I think they're the better team. I love the fact that I'm getting a few points there. So I'm taking NC State plus 2.5.
Last one, Steve, the Valero Alamo Bowl. I'm going to let you go first. The Arizona Wildcats, just a team that was phenomenal this year, blew everybody's expectations out of the water, versus the Oklahoma Sooners. So a 9-3 Pac-12 team versus a 10-2 Big 12 team. Probably the biggest bowl game in terms of highest ranked opponents that we're picking right here. What do you got here, Steve? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so here's the deal. If you looked at these rosters top to bottom, I think you would say that Oklahoma has more talent. Probably more talent, more experience.
Yeah.
However, Oklahoma, their quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, transfer into Oregon. I'm almost positive he's not playing in this game. He was the main driver of their offense.
Yep.
With him, I'm assuming he's not playing in this game.
I saw that he's not.
Yeah, okay. So
I assume he's not.
Right. So with him not in this game, I really think their offense is going to struggle. Arizona, just a young team. They just continue to come on. I loved how they played against Washington.
Yeah.
And just finished the season so strong. They got a young team. They're building towards next year. I think that I like them to win this game easily, straight up, maybe by close to a touchdown. So I'm going to go ahead and take Arizona to cover the 2.5 points.
We're going to agree again, Steve.
Right,
this is craziness. We haven't agreed this much on any of these, but yes, I have, Oklahoma without Gabriel, still have plenty of talent there. But the Wildcats just didn't lose too many players. They have a sneaky good offense, and maybe not sneaky anymore. I think people realize they have a good offense, really good offense. I think it's going to come down to Arnold. If you believe in him, bet him. But I'm going Wildcats.
Yeah.
-2.5. I agree. I like them as the field goal favorite here. Probably more of a touchdown favorite here. So I'm Wildcats -2.5. Steve, I think we would just do 11 picks. 10 of the 11 are the same, I believe.
Yeah, I think UNLV might be our only difference.
UNLV,
I'm riding the Mountain West train.
You are, and I'm anti my Mountain West.
How's that going to look if that's our tiebreaker this week?
I don't think that's going to happen, Steve.
Okay.
But I guess we'll find out. Hey, just as a reminder, we are doing a live episode Wednesday, the 27th, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 p.m. Pacific. We'd love to have you on. We did our first one a couple of weeks ago. We're going to pick all the New Year's 6 bowls and all the ones for next weekend as well, all the bowls. And with that, hey, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.